Hello everyone, and welcome to the LeveragePoint webinar. LeveragePoint is the only value-based platform in the cloud for companies changing the way they create, communicate, and capture value. I'd like to thank you for joining us for global rollout of a structured value pricing approach, a Bayer CropScience case study. This is Ed Arnold, LeveragePoint's Vice President of Products, and I'm pleased to moderate our session today. I'd like to welcome all of you to another one of our monthly webinars on value-based strategy. Now, during the webinar, if you have any specific questions or comments, please feel free to enter them in the right-hand panel in the question section, and then later, Ingo and I will respond to as many of them as we can. Also, remember to complete our quick survey upon exiting today's webinar. If you do so, you will receive a copy of the white paper, How to Put a Value Tag on Your Product, and be entered into a raffle for one copy of the book, The ROI of Pricing. So now it's my pleasure to introduce your speaker today, Ingo Hennecke, Global Pricing Manager at Bayer CropScience. As you can see in his bio, Ingo is a very experienced sales and marketing executive with worldwide experience. Based in Germany, he currently leads pricing excellence projects at Bayer CropScience, where we've had the pleasure of working with him. Ingo is very active in the global pricing community in both Europe and in the US, and is a certified pricing professional by the Professional Pricing Society. He certainly knows firsthand how to successfully deploy pricing best practices in the global organization. And so we're really excited and looking forward to him sharing his insights with us today. So with that, welcome Ingo.
Okay, warm welcome to everybody. Let me first thank you much for your interest. And Ed and Taylor, thank you very much for giving me the possibility to use your platform to share my experiences today. In my presentation, will cover four main elements, and I will start with a short introduction of Bayer CropScience. And I believe this will be helpful to afterwards understand better our value approach and how we rolled out value pricing methodologies to our countries. After the lessons learned, you will then have the possibility to ask some questions, and Ed and I will try to answer them as good as possible. Okay, so just some key figures from Bayer CropScience. So next to pharmaceuticals and consumer health, we will be one of the three divisions of the Bayer Group. We are around about 23,000 employees. Our turnover is about 9.5 billion, and we are represented in most of the countries where there is a significant agricultural business. So we are selling in more than 120 countries. So our business is agriculture, and I would just like to show on this slide some of the interesting challenges we are facing in our business. Now, just to look at two of them, if we look at the climate change, the weather fluctuations, which will influence, of course, the growth of certain crops in certain regions, or the problem of a growing population and the possibilities to feed them. All these global trends in agriculture, they are giving us a lot of possibilities to create value for our customers and our partners. Now, what is our offer? So we have and services of these three business segments. We are striving to fulfill the needs of our customers and partners in agriculture. And just to give you an idea about the three business segments, if we talk about crop protection, this is the green bar in the middle, these are products for professional users like farmers and wineries and so on. If we talk about environmental science, these are products for consumers, which you find in do-it-yourself and home and garden markets. And on top, we have products for professional users in the pest control and, for example, for golf courses. Now, I have already talked a lot about value, and I would like to show a little bit how we are defining the value which we are providing to our customers. So some of you might know this chart, how to define the economical value of an offering. In the past, we were very good in describing our product features. So you have a new active ingredient, you have a new formulation, new mode of action, product features, product attributes. However, they alone do not create any value for our customers. What we need is, however, to better understand our customer needs. And in the last years, we have improved dramatically to better understand our customer needs and to identify the really relevant benefits which afterwards we can transfer into an economical value for the farmers. Another important point is to consider to which extent we offer a differential value in relation to our competitors. To be fair, they are also offering good solutions, and only if we can prove that we provide an additional value to our customers, we can then identify, communicate, and sell this additional value and take a premium price for our products and services. Maybe some of you have listened to the webinar last week. So Mike Wilkinson, he presented his value triad, and with his friendly permission, I have adapted it a little bit to our needs and to show a little bit how we understand value and what value really means in agriculture. So if we start at the topic revenue gain, so what does this exactly mean for a customer, a grower? So it can mean, for example, the farmer gets additional yield, he's able to produce more onto the same field, he can increase his productivity. It can also mean that he can increase the quality of the yield he's producing and he gets a higher price for it. It can also mean that he is able to sell his products in different market segments and get higher prices for us. So there are just three little examples how we can increase the revenue for our customers if he uses our product. Now let's have a look at the cost reduction. So for example, if our products enable the customers to save one or more sprays, he can save labor costs, he can save water costs, he can save fuel, he can decrease the machinery investment or just save spendings in total. So these are two elements how we are providing an economical value to our customers. Now, Mike also mentioned a very important part, and this is the emotional contribution. Now, how does the emotional contribution look in agriculture? So we have found just two elements I wanted to share with you. And one of them is the so-called, we call it peace of mind. So give the grower the security that nothing dramatically will happen on his field if he uses our product. So he can relax, he knows we take care of his field, and he doesn't have to worry about pests or diseases. On the other, recognition. Every farmer and everybody in his job likes to be recognized as an expert. And especially if we can help the growers to have a good-looking field, then he will also get recognition from his peers and will be accepted as an expert in his field of profession. Now, to whom do we all provide value? Now, this is the value chain in agriculture. So Bayer is at the beginning, then we sell to our channel partners, they sell to the growers, and afterwards the growers are selling their harvest, their products to food processors and consumers. Now we are in the first elements, we are offering, of course, a value to the growers by providing good products, helping him to efficiently grow his crops, and of course to fulfill the needs of his customers, which are the food processors and the consumers in the end. But we shouldn't forget the channel partners, and especially for them it could be interesting to have small packagings, interesting, easy to transport products, and helping them to also optimize their P&L statement. Now, if we move on to the 3 Ps, the 3 Ps are some elements I've chosen to share with you, which we have covered in the rollout. And the 3 Ps were processes, people, and powerful tools. Now, let's start with the processes. The methodology of value pricing and the tools, which I'm going to show in a few minutes, have been fully integrated, of course, in all our processes, especially in the new product development and in our price adjustment process. On this slide, you can see how we have, how a country uses the methodologies to define the value of our offer and how to set a fair price. So they are starting by understanding the customer needs, looking at the product features, seeing how they fit together, which of the features are relevant and provide a benefit to the grower. Afterwards, we calculate the value generation, internal alignment, and cross-functional teams is very important to have a reality check about the assumptions we're taking. We're looking at the commercial offers and finally decide on a price and sell the product into the market. Important to know, pricing is not just a topic of sales or marketing, but it can cover also many different other functions in a company. Now let's talk about people. And in people, I would like to start with our organizational setup. So we have pricing managers in the regions, in the countries, and also a pricing organization on global level. However, we have also a lot of different other functions which are contributing to our success. And I have just shown some of them. We're looking at our business units, we have internal functions, we have functions of the Bayer Group, which are working together very closely in this pricing community. This works very well, and this year we even got the Leadership Award from Bayer CropScience, which shows a little bit that this has also been recognized by the jury and our top management and our board. So this shows clearly to me that we have achieved that pricing has become a very interesting place to work, and we are attracting a lot of young talents which would like to join our team and help us to bring pricing excellence on the road. We are also investing a lot in training of our colleagues from sales and marketing, and I would like to share with you the different formats we are offering. So we have some short formats, like we are participating in this Finance Academy, where we have a 2-hour slot, teaching controllers and accountants a little bit the background of pricing and showing them the relevant elements for them. The most important part is probably to lay the basics, is the so-called foundational training. So this foundational training is managed by very skilled external trainers, and it is the basic marketing and sales training from Bayer CropScience, and we have a 2-hour slot in this where we are covering most of the important topics about pricing. The other three deep dives are more specific. So here we are training 2 days. We are training smaller groups, and we are using mainly country organizations to organize these trainings, and they are covering all elements about pricing. The difference between these workshops and a training is that we are not using dummy data for training, but we are working on real cases and real data, and the outcome of these trainings is afterwards used to support our pricing decisions in the countries. Now, all this is under the roof of SkilCamp. This is our global Bayer CropScience training platform, and we are very happy to use some of their infrastructure. So this means we can offer also internal webinars on different topics, which of course are visited by colleagues from sales and marketing. On top, we have additional information which we can take from SkilCamp Online, which is a web-based database for tools, methodologies, and processes. A fool with a tool remains a fool. So this is what you often hear when we present a new pricing tool. However, we always reply, a craftsman without a good toolbox will never reach his full potential. For each of the steps of pricing, we are offering a set of different tools which are supported by individual training and coaching. So, of course, as I'm presenting today from the LeveragePoint platform, it's probably not a surprise for you that we are also using this tool. Just one remark, it's very well perceived by the colleagues and it creates value, and I will show in a few minutes some of the outcomes. So if we look at the rollout of value pricing, we started some years ago and introduced a lot of different tools I just showed to the countries, which are used quite well. I have just brought one example here, and this is the example how we rolled out LeveragePoint. So we started in 2014 with a pilot region, which is Latin America. They started working on tools, on exercises, on value models, and afterwards in 2015 we continued 2015 to introduce to North America and also to Asia Pacific. In Europe we have a different approach. Here the rollout is rather organized case by case, and it's a regional approach which we are supporting from headquarters. In total we have 80 users in all countries, all key countries we are selling in, and I believe we will find some other as well. Now I would like to share with you some of the results, and first I would like to start with some figures. So in total we have trained about 4,000 colleagues, sales and marketing and interface function, about value pricing in general and value pricing methodologies. So this was of course mainly supported by our trainers from SkilCamp, which have included some of our concepts into their foundational training. If we go more specific, we have trained about 200 colleagues on specific trainings, deep dives, how to use pricing strategies, how to use value pricing, and this is a 2-day training, and this has been done so far in all 4 regions and in all key countries have been covered. Now if we look at value pricing, specifically in LeveragePoint, so far we have 80 users which have set up around about 130 value models, and we are creating every day, we are setting up new value models. Now from the financial results, we have identified that in many cases we were already quite well positioned in the market. So our value pricing in the past wasn't that bad. However, Sometimes we could find that some minor adjustments could be done, or at least the value models, they help the salespeople to have a higher confidence when they are negotiating with their channel partners and our customers. However, in some cases, we have identified a surprising, significant differential value and have realized some nice price increases, some one-digit, some two-digit price increases, which of course help us a lot to convince the organization that value pricing really has a significant impact on our profitability. I would like to now move on to my lessons learned, which I would like to share with you, then move on maybe to a question session. So what have I learned during the implementation of value pricing and especially LeveragePoint in the last years? The first thing is keep it simple. So I made the experience that if you present tools to the colleagues which they do not understand, or which act kind of as a black box where you put figures in and they get some kind of result out they don't understand, they will not be accepted. They will keep them, will not use them and will doubt the outcome. So really explain everything easy, keep it easy, and show the people how to get the value out of it. The second really important part is cross-functional teams. Now, so in the past, very often the people thought pricing is just related to sales and marketing. However, we made the experience, especially in value pricing, if we try to identify the value of our offering, it's very helpful to include the colleagues, the technical colleagues, which have experience with the field trials, with the development of our products, and we even try to develop our products to enable them to provide more value. So in our workshops, we typically have teams from sales, marketing, we have business intelligence people in there, we have also controllers in there which help us with some supporting figures. So this is really one of the success factors to roll out value pricing in a good way. Next one, let the colleagues have fun. And this was really important if we roll out LeveragePoint to show them pricing doesn't have to be just serious. It can also make a lot of fun, and especially by finding different value drivers, they can find also creative ideas which provide value to our customers. And this is also a big experience I made in the workshops. Let them have fun and they will bring you very nice results. Another one, not every value model will be successful. I mentioned it in my last slide already. You will find value models where you realize that your product is already very well positioned. It captures a fair share of the value you are providing to the end users. And you will also have value models where it is difficult for the colleagues to realize if there is still some differential value. So not every value model will be successful, but it will be a number of it. And believe me, it's worth doing the exercise. Well, the more value models, of course, you create, you can increase the probability of success. So if you have more, then you will probably find some very nice examples where you can create some additional value. The last point, share success stories. So at the beginning, when you present or you roll out your methodologies, people will have doubt if it works. As soon as you have success stories, it is much easier to roll it out. The difficulty very often is to get the success stories. This is something you have to ask for proactively, to say, okay, tell me what you have done with the tools. Did it work out? What were the challenges you were facing? And so on. Okay, so now I would like to thank you, Ed, and hand over to answer some questions.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Ingo, for that presentation. We really appreciate you sharing your expertise with us today. And already we've had a number of good questions come in, and there is still time to enter your questions onto the list by going to the questions panel on your screen. And while you're entering, I just want to remind you that there is a 10-second survey when you exit today's webinar. And if you do that, you'll receive a copy of how to put a value tag on your product white paper and be entered to win one copy of the ROI of pricing. So as you answer your questions, I want to just take a minute to talk to you a little bit about LeveragePoint. And first thing is to say that LeveragePoint provides a cloud-based platform which allows companies to scale their best practices in collaboration. And it all begins with a central secure database of key product, customer, and competitor data that product marketing and pricing teams use to build value models, as Ingo described, and use that to devise their product strategy as well as produce marketing and sales content, which customer-facing teams use in their value selling process to capture more value and to win more business. And because it's a cloud platform, it supports rapid iteration, and the entire organization gets smarter as sales teams capture real-time feedback from the field. And especially for large global organizations, there is really no better way to scale value pricing than using a platform like this. Now, in the past year, more and more of our customers have been using LeveragePoint to create value propositions for their sales teams. And we define a value proposition as a sales tool that lets you tell your value story to a customer in a dynamic way, and it quantifies value for that customer based on their use. So a value proposition, a best practice is to provide it as a compelling one-pager that's easy to communicate in a few minutes and highlights how much value that particular customer gains by using your product. So as you see in this example on the screenshot, we're showing over $269,000 worth of value that's delivered by those reasons that you see across the bottom: increased productivity, higher resale value, lower operating costs. And any of these reasons can be drilled down into a value driver with more detail. So lastly, I just want to end with some quotes that some of our other LeveragePoint customers have given us. They talk about the ease of use. They talk about better collaboration, especially across global organizations such as Ingo described. Certainly better efficiency, which means faster and better decision making. And then, of course, our favorite quote, which is the bottom line impact. And I know we've already had questions about that. But higher gross margins, in this particular case, a 2 to 4% increase. So thanks for listening to that. And I think it's time for our questions. And I'll answer the one that we always get, which is the webinar recorded? And the answer to that is yes. And by the end of the week, anyone who does complete that quick survey will get a copy of the white paper, and they will be entered into the book raffle. All right. So Ingo, I have a bunch of good questions here. I'd like to start asking. Are you ready?
Sure, I'm ready, Ed.
Okay, great, good. You had me worried there for half a second. The first question is, in terms of the results from your pricing excellence project, how long did it take before you start seeing the positive business results?
Well, that's of course a valid question. Everybody wants to have quick wins or pick the low-hanging fruits. Well, in our business is a seasonal business. Therefore, we don't change prices every week. And Therefore, it takes some time to see the first results. But after 1 or 2 years, we are starting to harvest what we have sown, and we see some good results coming up. But of course, there's still a lot to do. But I guess in industries which have a more dynamic pricing, if you use the methodologies of value pricings like value maps or value calculations, I guess you can see much faster results.
Okay, great. This is more of a tactical question, but it's what is the total number of fully dedicated pricing professionals in your organization today? How many people are dedicated to pricing?
We have dedicated pricing managers in the regions and on global level and in our key markets. So in total, I would assume they are not all fully dedicated, but we'll probably have 10, 15 fully dedicated pricing managers.
Okay, great. This is a question about sort of the profit growth. And I guess, and I know we don't want to give away anything proprietary here, but I guess the question is, have you realized EBITDA growth as a result of using value models? And is there any way that you track that, the relationship between the value models and the profit growth?
We are not tracking it directly on EBITDA level. We are tracking using different KPIs. Of course, we have to take into account that there are a lot of different other influence factors which come into the EBITDA. So therefore, it might be in future something we will look at, but we should take into account, we just started 2014 and we are not covering the biggest part of the market yet.
Okay. This next question is about where you use LeveragePoint, and it asks about LeveragePoint for new products and innovation. And I guess I'll broaden that question and ask in other products in your portfolio. Where do you use it, and where are you getting the best results?
We are using it, of course, for new products, because it's typically an excellent exercise for the new product development to better understand what we can provide on additional value to our customers. However, we are also using it for mature products to, for example, give the sales force better arguments to defend prices against competitors or against the pressure of our channel partners.
Okay, excellent. And this is sort of an add-on question to that, asking about StageGate and using this as part of the StageGate process. Is it embedded in your StageGate process?
Not yet, but it might be in future.
Okay. Another question was, and I guess this refers to the number of value models your team has created. I guess the question is, how long does it take to develop these 80 value models?
I'd like to answer with a consultant answer. It depends. We can start a value model. We can set up a first initial value model within 2 or 3 hours. But of course, depending on the quality you want to achieve afterwards and the complexity maybe of the market segment and the offering, it can take, of course, also a few days until you have collected all relevant data and entered it into the tool.
Yeah, no, a great answer, and maybe to build on that, just from our experiences, that a couple of things. One is, it's an iterative process, so it's not something that you do once and then it's done. I mean, we've seen a lot of spreadsheets that are built that way, but really your markets are changing and your customers and conditions are changing, so you constantly need to iterate. So it's a matter of refreshing those value models, but we're not talking about a lot of time to do that. The other thing is, the fact that you are reusing information and utilizing the search in the database. I mean, I guess, let me ask you, Ingo, I mean, are you finding that as more and more value models are being entered, folks are building them more efficiently because they can reuse information?
Of course, if you have a model for a certain product in a certain market, then just imagine a different country has the same kind of market and use the same product. They can copy the value model and just adapt the market specifics of their country, and then of course it is much easier. If you have already the features and the benefits entered, and they just adapt the formulas and the value drivers, and of course they are much more efficient then. That's right, yeah.
Okay. We've had a number of questions, and by the way, I have never seen as many questions as I'm seeing right now in webinars, so you've really generated a lot of interest here, Ingo. But we see a lot of questions about the sales execution side of it. That is, everything from how do you actually get salespeople to use the value propositions, to how do you measure their results, to how to keep them engaged in the process. What are some of your experiences on the sales execution side of things?
Okay, that's on the one side easy and also difficult to answer. Of course, we have some other colleagues which are not in the pricing team, which care for sales excellence and sales management. And of course, we are working together with them. They know about our concepts, and we are including in our trainings people from sales management so they can implement it afterwards in the market. But Ed, that's clearly a valid question. It doesn't make any sense to create value models if we are not able to bring it down to the customer and communicate it in the adequate way.
Right. And in terms of the reactions, the feedback from sales, I mean, I know that it's a theme in this business that marketing and sales people don't really talk very, very well in many companies around value or their understandings of value. Maybe some comments on how you've been able to bridge that gap between marketing, pricing, and sales teams.
Well, in our company, they talk to each other. So I think this has become much better in the last years, and we are involving the salespeople in the trainings. We are also involving or going to sales excellence meetings where we present our approach, and of course, it's done in the countries where the responsibles are able to bring it down to the market. But I don't see a big issue. In the opposite, if we can show them how much value our products provide to our end customers, they have a new story to tell. They have something new to tell, and everybody wants to earn additional money. So why shouldn't it help them to convince our channel partners?
Okay, we've gotten a number of questions around data and customer data, and we hear this question a lot, which is, where do you get the customer data to build these value models, and how do you continually refine that data?
Okay, now, if you imagine the big number of farmers or growers in a country, we cannot, of course, have for each of them an individual value model. Just to give you an idea, in India we have maybe 100 million farmers. In other countries it's more than 100 or 200,000 customers we are serving. Therefore we are starting with our value models by the assumption of a customer segment. And the data we are getting from this customer segment is mainly from focus group, from surveys, or we try to refine it, of course, with the experience of the sales and marketing guys in the countries. So we do not have a value model for each farmer. So this has to be clear. We are looking at different segments, and therefore we are, of course, having maybe an average, a generic. But if, of course, afterwards the salespeople use this information, they can refine it in a direct conversation with their customers.
Okay, great. Yeah, and I think again, it's the importance of having an iterative approach. I mean, a lot of times we find is that, to start a value model, you're simply taking what is accepted internally with a team, and then to validate that, by talking to the sales group, by talking to channels, by testing it with customers. So it's an ongoing type of process. But I think one important point, I just would like to get your perspectives on this, Ingo, is that a lot of times companies don't start the process because they feel they have to collect all the data first before they could start thinking about that. And I think you're better off starting with the data at hand, but I would be curious about your experiences on that, Ingo.
Well, of course, we have collected a lot of data from customers, and we are very interested in understanding the customer needs, and we have invested quite some time and some money and some work to build up tools and methodologies to capture these needs much better than in the past. And this is something, of course, we pricing managers benefit a lot of, that we have informations which we can use in our value models. We have information also about how people or customers perceive the benefits of our products, and of course this can then be integrated there in the value models and then used afterwards to calculate the value.
Another question is on company buy-in, and I think what I'm hearing here is that I know we're talking to a pricing audience here, and there are a lot of people who believe in value pricing, but they may not be, maybe some challenges in communicating that as a priority, inside their organizations and getting, executive sponsorship and support for that. I was just wondering if you could share some of your experiences and how you got the corporate buy-in for your approach, for your program.
Where to start? I think the biggest challenge we were facing in the past was to create a sense of urgency, to communicate the power we have if we look at the value we can provide in comparison to let's call it a cost plus or competitive approach, which was done maybe 10-15 years ago. What really helped was, of course, to have some, let's call it some advocates in the organization which believed in value pricing. And as soon as you have some success stories, then which are spread around and shown how much additional profit you might make if you use these methodologies, it starts to get better. However, you need skilled people, skilled pricing managers who really are driving this topic, and then if you get the senior management to support you, it works.
Okay, great. Thank you. A couple, and I know we should be wrapping up, but a couple more questions around price setting decision making. That is, who in the organization does set prices? And then there's a related question about how do you manage prices across regions if you have customers that also are cross-regional? So I thought I'd put those two together.
Yeah. Okay, let's start with the second one. For customers who are across regions, we have dedicated key account managers, and they take care of that. So that's the easy one. Now to the general price setting process, I think we have to, a lot of people are involved. We are talking about global people who are setting a frame. We are looking at regional people who have certain targets, and of course country people who know the market better. So somehow they all work together to set a framework, but in the end the specific price is then set afterwards in the country organization.
Okay, very good. You may have covered this before, but I just want to ask it maybe again in a different way. There's a question about KPIs that you use to track your success. I know you talked about the number of value models and the number of folks that have trained in the process, but when you're looking at sort of the adoption of value pricing in your organization, what are other things that you use that guide you as how successful the process is going?
Yeah. So first of all, when we started the rollout, we of course looked at the number of countries, how much turnover is covered with this. We also look how much of our new products are covered, and other KPIs we are currently developing.
Okay. Great. Another question is, where do you start? I mean, if someone is listening to all of this and they're impressed with what you've done in a few years, but they may be in their early stages, what would be the one or two things you would recommend as a place to get started?
An important part is to understand how the prices have been set so far. Make some pilot projects in a country and then see how it looks out. I wouldn't start with a big rollout of a tool directly, but first try out, get some people who support you, and then see the results.
Right. And what would you say when you were starting that process? What was the biggest challenge that you had to deal with, and how did you overcome it?
Let's say it like this. One of the big challenges is, of course, that people move to different positions, and you might have to choose some new supporters. You have to refresh the trainings very often in the countries. This is something which needs, of course, necessary resources. Something which is really important is to have the backing of the senior management, and of course you need some kind of resources to pay trainings, pay tools, pay consultants, and these kind of things.
Okay. We had a number of questions about SkilCamp. I think there are people who would like to register for it, but I think that's just within your company.
I guess the SkilCamp people would like to hear that, and but SkilCamp is an excellent sales and marketing academy here in Bayer CropScience, which is highly recognized and visited by many people so far. But unfortunately, it's just internally. But of course, if someone is interested, I can make a contact to the head of SkilCamp. Maybe he is interested to have an exchange.
Okay, that I think that would be appreciated. And then there was another question about whether you bring in outside experts into the SkilCamp as, I guess, presenters.
Well, not yet. So the SkilCamp is managed by external trainers, which are using the material of the internal experts. So we have, for each of the different topics, we have experts here in Monheim sitting, which are preparing together with the external trainers the material, the exercises, and the tools to be presented in there. And but external trainers so far, I'm not aware of that. Besides, currently.
All right. So one last question, and someone asked if you had any specific advice about how to bring more fun into pricing strategy training.
Well, typically what we like to do is we include some games into this trainings, some simulations in the trainings, some competitions, a lot of other things which surprise the people, make them think about these things. We very often quote some cases which are not from our industry, but we find are very, let's call them extreme. So I wouldn't call them funny pricing, but cases where we say, okay, would we have done a different decision at that part? So if we have all these different elements, then you can really have fun in the trainings. Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's great. It's great. It's great to hear that. That's great to hear that. All right. Well, I thank you for answering, I think, a record number of questions, and I think we've covered most of them. But if you want some more information, you could mention that in your comments on the way out of today's webinar. And I'd like to thank everyone for watching. Everyone is a great number of people have stayed on during the Q&A. So thanks everyone for attending today's webinar, and a big thanks to Ingo. Really great presentation and answers there. All right then. So we'll sign off for now, and thanks everyone, and we'll talk to you next time.
Thank you.